If You Think I'm Pretty by Annesangels. I love it when you do that. Regulus breathed into James's ear. James's head rolled back and he managed to gasp out a reply. Do what? He asked, breathless. Regulus grinned. When you gasp like that, he murmured. It's intoxicating. James smiled slightly, remembering the night before. Him and Regulus had been hooking up for almost a month now. It had started when Regulus had decided to accompany Sirius and his band, which included James, on their tour to Europe, so he could catch up with his brother and see his concerts. The little thing started about 2 weeks into their tour, when they had both been blind drunk. After that, they just never stopped. He knew Regulus only wanted to have sex, and that was perfectly fine with him. He was so in love with Regulus, it was painful at times. He didn't hold that. He hadn't told him that, of course, because he would take whatever Regulus gave him, and for now, that was just sex. James had been in love with him ever since they were teenagers, and though he had dated other people, no one ever came close to Reg. It was just so perfectly in ways that words couldn't even explain. He loved how Regulus would go on rants about books or people that annoyed him that day. James would always listen to him for hours. He loved Regulus's smug and quiet laugh. He wanted to run his hands through his Reg's hair for hours and on end and memorize every part of his body. The other part of the problem was Sirius Black. He would never forgive James if he knew that he was hooking up with his little brother. Never mind the fact that James was actually in love with him. Sirius would never be okay with it, and it would destroy their friendship. So James wasn't going to tell him. Him and Regulus's time together would simply be memories together, and James would remember in longing, nothing more. And it just didn't matter much anyway. James couldn't stop thinking about what Regulus had said last night. Though, I love it when you gasp like that. Of course, the second James had heard that, he started planning. The Marauders had a concert that night, and James was performing his personal favorite on his personal favorite of their songs that night, so James was going to gasp a little more than he usually did in his performance. He couldn't wait. Mooney, tragedy has stuck. Sirius came swinging into his and Remus' hotel. Remus and James looked up from the sound of his voice, and Remus smiled. What is it, Cariad? Remus said, sounding loving and tired at the same time. Regulus is seeing someone, Sirius exclaimed. This piqued his interest. Really? Are you sure? Remus asked, now fully looking at James. He could practically see his heart break before it morphed into questioning. Sirius nodded. Yes, he complained. I could hear noises coming from his room last night. Sirius shook himself and he looked probably traumatized. Just when he heard James mutter something beside him. Last night? He said quietly, seeming deep in thought and confusing written all across his face. But how? Suddenly, realization seemed to strike him and he laughed quietly. Sirius turned to glare at James. What is it, Bronx? He snapped. James tried to school his expression before he shook his head and said nothing. Sirius glowered at him before stomping out of the room, probably to go see Regulus. As soon as he left, James burst out into laughter. He was laughing so hard that he was clutching his stomach, tears practically rolling down his face. Remus stared at him, completely nonplussed. Why are you so happy about this exactly? Shouldn't you be sad that your love is seeing someone? He said. And James was still laughing so hard that Remus was honestly concerned for his health at that point. Had he gone into shock? After about a minute, James controlled his laughter for a second and explained to a lost Remus. The person Sirius heard in Regulus' room, he said, still laughing, was me. Then he was off again, laughing like his life depended on it. Remus waited very patiently for James to stop laughing again. When he finally stopped, Remus bombarded him with questions. What do you mean it was you? Are you and Regulus dating? I thought you said you could never he could never like you like that, Remus asked quickly, before James went off again. Fortunately, James seemed to have calmed himself this time. No, it's nothing like that. James shook his head. We've been hooking up for about a month now, but it's not anything like dating, just sex. Remus looked at him in sympathy. Oh, James, he started. James shook his head. Don't worry about it, Moons. It will be all right. Then he left the room, leaving his friend sitting on the bed, hoping that James wasn't about to get his heart broken because of Regulus again. James loved being on stage, everything about it, the lights, the crowd, the noise, it gave him such a thrill. It made him feel alive. They were in the middle of their concert, upcoming to James's favorite song in which his plan revolved around. The song they were currently playing finally came close when his first note, If You Think I'm Pretty, came on. James loved this song. He started to sing. If you think I'm pretty, lay your hands on me. Know that you can't stop thinking about it. Then came the moment James was waiting for. The slight break in the song before the next lyric. In that moment, James gasped twice, breathing fast into the mic, and in that moment, a new idea struck and he knelt. The crowd went crazy. James kept singing, staring directly at Regulus. I know that you're shitty and you're bad for me, but I can't stop thinking about it. The song carried on like normal until the first verse. Won't you give that shit a rest? You don't know I won't love, 'cause you're only here for the sex. Fuck, he hadn't meant to say that. He didn't know where the mess up came from, but he could see it in the corner of his eyes. Remus was staring at him. Regulus was looking at him from the crowd before he turned and left. Fuck. He continued the rest of the song as it normally should be, trying and failing not to panic. If he had been able to see the drum set from where he was standing, where Sirius was, he could have seen Sirius was staring at him in complete shock, finally recognized the gaps that he had heard last night. The concert was finished in the next 30 minutes, and James practically ran off stage, desperate to find Regulus. Before he could, though, he was stopped by Sirius. Hey mate, sorry, we can't really talk right now. I've got to go, James said, rushed, desperate to explain to Regulus. Why? Sirius said. You gonna see your boyfriend? James froze. How did he find out? They had been so careful. What? He whispered, terrified. Your boyfriend, Sirius said conversationally. Regulus, my little brother. James started to stutter out in response. No, he's not my boyfriend. What are you talking about? He trailed off as he saw Sirius glaring at him. Don't lie to me, James. I recognized your little gasps from last night. Sirius shuddered again, as if remembering that was physically painful for him. Honestly, it probably was. Okay, yes, Sirius. I'm so sorry, James admitted defeat. He knew he had no way to deny it, so it was better to rip off the band-aid quickly. But he's not my boyfriend. It's not like that. Sirius looked horrified. You mean you're only having him for sex? Wait, you're not allowed to touch Regulus. He's my baby brother. James snorted without being able to control it. He had done a lot more than just touch. James, stop it! Sirius exclaimed, furious. No, alright, I love him and all that, but he doesn't want anything more, just touching. Sirius frowned, choosing, it seemed, to ignore the touching comment. You love him. James' whole body went soft. Yeah, I really do. Sirius studied him for a moment, After a bit, he sighed dramatically, like what he was about to do was at great personal sacrifice. Fine, I suppose I can accept that. You may leave. James was shocked. Was it really gonna be that easy? Really? He asked. Sirius looked at him pityingly. Just go. James didn't need to be told twice. He dashed off before Sirius could change his mind. He found Regulus exactly where he knew he would be sitting. Sitting on the roof on his flat, staring at the stars. He looked so peaceful, looking at the sky, and at first glance, not a care in the world. James could have watched him there forever. He stepped closer, and, of course, his foot caught on a lowly brick laying on the concrete. He cursed, managing to catch himself before he could fall on his face, but not before he caught the attention of Regulus. He turned to look at James quickly, his anger now evident on his face. "What are you doing here, James?" he snapped. "Don't you have a girl to be chasing after?" James started trying to explain immediately. "Look, Reg, I'm sorry that—" Wait, what? He stopped when Regulus' words caught him. "What girl would I be chasing?" James asked, confused. Regulus scowled. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe the one you're fucking narrating tonight?" When James still looked lost, Regulus continued to explain. "Lily, you don't know I want love because you were here for sex. Your relationship with her ended because she didn't want kids, remember?" His frown deepened, and even worse than his anger was that he looked hurt. "Now you want her back, and me and my stupid crush are getting in the way of that." James had to take a second to fully process that. "You have a crush on me?" was the first thing he said. Regulus's anger came out. Regulus's anger came back at full force. "Of course, that's the thing you noticed. You fucking stuck up prick." "No, Reg, that's not what I meant." James took a breath. I actually have a crush on you too. I didn't mean to change the lyrics tonight, and I was singing to you anyway, not to Lily or anybody else." Regulus frowned at again. "You don't need to lie to me to make me feel better, James." "I'm not lying." He paused, trying to gather his thoughts. "The actual reason my relationship with Lily failed was because we were both in love with someone else. She was in love with Mary, and am in love with you." Regulus looked at him. "You love me?" Regulus asked, voice small. James sighed. "Of course I do, Reg. You're so—" He trailed off. "So?" Regulus prompted. So. "I'm so," Regulus asked. "No, you're so amazing and wonderful," and he stopped again when he saw how Regulus was looking at him. "God, I love you." Regulus smiled. James was shocked that the whole world didn't light up when he did so. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. "Of course you can." So he did, and it felt like fireworks. Truly gasp-worthy. Hello, I'm just going to start with apologizing for if you heard cat noise in the background, or that you would be correct, because my attention-craving cat decided she needed to sit on my laptop. No, go away. Dang it. Just sit still. I'm sorry. She's right now destroying everything on my desk, because of course she is. So I'm very sorry if you don't get off that. I'm so sorry. I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh dear. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry I was so distracted. I was busy with her. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed Have a very nice day, and well, bye.